instruction of state regulators approved the project, a lead activist said Thursday. There would be so much civil disobedience, it would make Standing Rock look like a rehearsal, said Jane Cleve, founder of Bold, Nebraska. Cleve spoke after the conclusion of a 4-day courtroom-style hearing by the Nebraska Public Service Commission, which is reviewing whether the proposed pipeline is in the public interest. Nebraska's approval is one of the final necessary steps before pipeline builder TransCanada can begin turning dirt on the 1,179-mile project. The 5 elected commissioners have until November 23 to reach a decision. Their review includes about 20,000 pages of documents and comments from about 500,000 people who weighed in on the project, either in writing or in person at 4 public hearings over the summer. The PSC will continue to accept written comments through Friday afternoon. Appeals are almost certain, regardless of the Commission's decision. Opponents say the pipeline wouldn't benefit Nebraska and poses too great a risk to the land, cultural sites, wildlife, and other natural resources. If anything, they argue, TransCanada should consider a route through the state that closely follows its existing Keystone Pipeline. TransCanada contends it's met the standards required in the state law and that any negative impacts from Keystone XL would be minimal. The preferred route has been studied exhaustively. It's one of the most studied cross-border pipelines in history, said TransCanada spokesman Matt Johns. The safety and environmental merits of the project have been studied at length, and the preferred route has been the route that has been determined to be the safest and most environmentally responsible route. The 275-mile portion of the pipeline that would cut through the state would run from Kepahaw County in north central Nebraska to a pumping station in Steel City along the Kansas state line. There it would connect with the existing Keystone Pipeline to haul Canadian crude oil from Hardisty, Alberta to the U.S. Gulf Coast. The original Keystone tracks farther east from Cedar County, almost directly south to Steel City. Ken Winston, a lawyer for the Sierra Club in Bold, Nebraska, tried Thursday to force TransCanada to provide more data on an alternate route that would closely follow the original Keystone Pipeline. Retired Judge Karen Flowers, presiding over the hearing under contract with the PSC, denied Winston's request. Flowers also rejected opponents' attempts to block added written testimony by TransCanada, which they argued made substantial changes to the company's original application. After 3 full days of lengthy, sometimes intense questioning, the hearings ended before noon Thursday with a whimper, said Dave Domina of Omaha, an attorney for landowners along the route who opposed the Keystone XL. The final day focused mainly on how TransCanada and its contractors would avoid disturbing Native American cultural sites that might be located along the pipeline route. Brad Jolly, a lawyer for the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, challenged TransCanada consultant Aaron Salisbury on how and when the company learned the location of the Ponca Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears is the route followed by Ponca Chief Standing Bear and other members of the tribe in 1877 during their forced relocation to Indian Territory in modern-day Oklahoma. The Keystone XL would cross the trail in 2 places. There is also a Trail of Tears campsite along the pipeline route. Salisbury claimed last month in written testimony that the Keystone XL wouldn't impact any known historic properties, but Jolly pointed to maps and emails showing TransCanada knew about the Trail of Tears as early as 2015. TransCanada handles all cultural sites with ultimate care, John said after the hearing. Jennifer Baker, a lawyer for the Yankton Sioux Tribe, also voiced concerns about a workforce camp or man camp, which could house pipeline workers during construction. TransCanada has said a camp, if needed, would be about 10 miles northwest of O'Neill, near the Yankton Reservation in South Dakota. Rick Perkins, logistics manager for Keystone XL, said while pipeline workers are subject to random drug tests, TransCanada hasn't met with local law enforcement along the route in Nebraska and the company doesn't prohibit sex offenders from working on the pipeline. Like previous days, Thursday's hearing drew a quiet crowd of about 75 people. Nebraska State Patrol spokesman Cody Thomas thanked attendees for remaining safe and orderly this week and during public hearings throughout the summer.
From the Omaha World Herald, a group of city council members want to add some money for community service programs to Mayor Gene Stothart's proposed 2018 budget. They've proposed 4 amendments to add money to such programs, plus a 5th amendment that would beef up the city clerk's budget after the council approved some increases to the council's salary ranges. The amendments would make less than $100,000 worth of changes to a $900 million city budget. If the amendments are approved, the following program budgets would increase. The Metropolitan Area Planning Commission would receive an additional $10,000 for a total of $20,000. MAPA Executive Director Greg Ewell asked the council to increase its funding to $40,000. Council President Ben Gray proposed the amendment. The police athletics for community engagement would receive an additional $10,000 under an amendment proposed by Gray, Pete Festerson, and Vinnie Palermo. Stothart had proposed funding of $25,000, up from $20,000 in 2017. The Reconnect program, which provides job training and other services to young people transitioning from prison, would receive another $10,000 for a total of $55,000 under an amendment from Gray and Council Vice President Chris Jerem. Gray and Jerem also want to add $20,000 for the Heartland Workforce Solutions Job Training Program. Council members had asked for about $1 million in funding. Stothart proposed $500,000, up from $440,000 in 2017. All of the money would be moved from the mayor's proposed allocation to city reserve funds. The council is scheduled to vote on the budget August 22. Tuesday is the deadline for council members to submit addendums.
The state has fined an Omaha psychiatrist who had worked at Centerpoint in Lincoln $10,000 and suspended his license for 30 days over an inappropriate relationship with a patient. Dr. Leandro Annett Jr. agreed to the settlement and waived his right to a disciplinary hearing, according to documents on file with the Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public Health. His suspension began a week ago. Wednesday, Centerpoint President and CEO Topher Hansen called it little more than a slap on the wrist for what he saw as a serious breach of trust and intentional deceit to cover it up by Annett. These are major violations in my mind, he said. Annett, who is board certified in general psychiatry and also can prescribe pain medications, had worked at Centerpoint either full-time or on contract from November 2014 to March 2017. It was methadone prescriptions which pharmacists had started refusing to fill, believing Annett was dosing too high, that led to the investigation that uncovered the patient was living with him. According to the petition for disciplinary action dated June 23, Annett began treating the woman in Lincoln in December 2015. By September 2016, she had moved into his home in Omaha, Assistant Attorney General Mindy Lester wrote. Annett's records indicated she had transitioned from in-office face-to-face meetings to video conferencing. Lester said when Annett was interviewed by an investigator with the Department of Health and Human Services in January, he admitted they had an intimate relationship and that it was definitely wrong and not professional. She said Annett also was continuing to prescribe the woman fentanyl, methadone, and Adderall on a regular basis and having it sent to his Omaha address. Hansen said once Centerpoint found out, it terminated the relationship with Annett immediately. I'm a big believer of operating at the highest ethic to take care of the people we're serving because they're so vulnerable in every respect, he said. Centerpoint provides treatment for people suffering from mental and substance use disorders. In the petition for disciplinary action, Annett was accused of dishonorable conduct, immoral conduct, sexual abuse, misconduct or exploitation, and unprofessional conduct. Last month, he admitted the allegations as part of the settlement that included the $10,000 fine and 30-day license suspension. He is also required to complete an ethics and boundaries program and another on prescribing controlled drugs. On July 25, the settlement was approved by Dr. Thomas Williams, the state's chief medical officer, after having been approved by the Board of Medicine and Surgery in the Attorney General's office. Hansen questioned if the fine and short suspension were enough to keep this from happening again. They're the ones guarding the henhouse, he said, of the state's licensing board, and they're not doing a very good job of it. A spokeswoman for HHS declined to respond to the criticism, as did a spokeswoman for the Attorney General's office. And Kathy Osterman of HHS said she could not provide information about how the board members voted on the proposed settlement because that happened in a closed session. Dr. Carl B. Smith, chair of the Board of Medicine and Surgery, also declined to respond to criticism that the discipline wasn't enough. Any deliberations that occur in closed session are confidential, and I am unable to discuss them, he said Thursday by email.
Douglas County officials are in preliminary talks with owners of a potential site for a possible new juvenile justice center in downtown Omaha. The Omaha Douglas Public Building Commission has been scheduled to select a consultant Thursday to study space needs for the Douglas County Juvenile Court and related agencies, but the item was pulled off the Thursday meeting agenda. Instead, the commission voted to go into closed session to discuss real estate negotiations. Commission members declined to identify the site. They said the talks are very preliminary, but they said they may have to change the study contract terms, which originally called for the consultant to examine potential sites. The commission plans to call a special meeting in 2 weeks instead of waiting for its next monthly meeting, said Omaha City Councilwoman Amy Melton, a member of the commission. We didn't want to put this off another 30 days, she said. Claire Duda, a Douglas County board member on the commission, said a possible site had been discussed and has generated interest. But it's only a possible site, he said. There are some conversations going on to see if this is the site we want. The conversations involve county officials, the owner of the site, and the judiciary, Duda said. The commission and county and court officials said that the Douglas County Juvenile Court has outgrown its space in the Douglas County Courthouse. They say they have no room to permanently house a 6th juvenile court judge who is expected to be named this fall. The commission wants the consultant to study housing under one roof, juvenile court judges, courtrooms, lawyers from the counties, attorneys and public defenders' offices, sheriff's deputies, and state government and nonprofit agencies that handle juvenile legal matters. Proponents want it to be in a building separate from adult court. Melton, a former Douglas County prosecutor who practices family law, has been pressing for such a center for 4 years. I want this ball rolling now, she said.
And some good news on taxes for Lancaster County residents. The county's property tax levy will go down this year by more than ½ cent, though spending by county agencies will rise. The county tax rate of 27.53 cents per $100 in valuation will likely drop to 26.83 cents per $100 based on the current budget proposal. However, the county expects to take in and spend 5.25% more in property tax dollars based on the proposed budget. Property tax revenue for county services would rise from $64.7 million to $67.8 million. That disparity, a drop in the tax rate and a rise in property tax collections, is the result of the county assessor's reevaluation of residential property accounts across the county, reflecting rising housing values. Countywide, total property value is expected to rise by about 8%, and home values will be going up on average 10%. The county's tax rate was the point of contention among the 5 commissioners during a meeting Thursday. 2 commissioners, Todd Wilkin and Deb Shore, would like to see the tax rate reduced even further to 26.63 cents per $100 in valuation. 3, Bill Avery, Roma Amundsen, and Jennifer Brinkman want to set it at 26.83, the same rate it was 5 years ago before it began rising. The 26.83 rate is still lower than the current rate, Amundsen points out. We're not raising taxes, we are raising the levy, she said. However, many people will be paying more in property taxes, even with a lower rate, because of the countywide reassessment of residential property and higher home values, Loken noted. If we leave the rate the same, basically we're raising taxes, he said. And individuals who are low income or on fixed incomes are going to be hurt the most, he said. When people write their checks, they'll be writing more for county-related taxes, Shore said. The seemingly marginal difference from 26.63 cents to 26.83 cents will allow the county to begin saving money for some looming expenses, Amundsen said. It will bring in about $500,000. Setting a lower rate really impacts the county's ability to serve the greater good and provide infrastructure, human services, and safety services, she said. But Shore said she would rather return that money to taxpayers. That 0.2 cent difference would be almost $6 on a $300,000 home, Amundsen said. In order to make a significant difference on tax payments, all the local government units, Lincoln Public Schools, the city, and others would have to agree not to take advantage of the reassessment gain, Amundsen said. But Shore said the county board can only control its levy, not the levy of other governmental units. This is our responsibility. This is what we can control, she said. The county board tax levy makes up about 13.5% of the total property tax payment for people who live in Lincoln.
In local and regional news briefs, with an eye on keeping traffic moving and motorists safe, Nebraska officials are restricting oversized semi-trucks from using the state's highways around this month's total solar eclipse. Oversized loads that transport heavy equipment and use pilot vehicles are not permitted to travel on state and U.S. highways and Interstate 80 from sunset August 18 to sunrise August 22, said Tom Sands, operations manager for the Nebraska Department of Transportation. The August 21 eclipse, which is expected to attract nearly 500,000 visitors to Nebraska, will lead to heavy traffic on the state's roads, he said. Heavy traffic is especially likely near a 70-mile wide path of eclipse totality that runs from the northwest part of the state to the southeast. We're expecting a lot of traffic, Sands said. We're anticipating congestion. The path of totality, or 100% coverage of the sun by the moon's shadow, will include such cities as Alliance, Grand Island, and Beatrice. Sands said oversized wide loads also are banned during heavily traveled holiday weekends such as Memorial Day. Standard 8-foot wide semi-loads are okay for travel. A portion of Cornhusker Road north of Gretna was closed Thursday over concerns about the safety of a bridge there. Sarpy County Public Works issued an emergency road closure on Cornhusker Road between Highway 31 and 192nd Street. A Sarpy County spokesperson said the bridge has had issues with drainage and the county has been looking into its stability. The public is being asked to use alternate routes, but local traffic will have access to the area during the closure. A 63-year-old Fremont man died Thursday when his pickup collided with a semi-truck on U.S. Highway 30. Stanley A. Von Segem was pronounced dead at the scene about 11:30 a.m., according to Fremont Police Department investigators, who say he drove a 2003 Dodge Dakota pickup onto the highway and collided with an eastbound semi at 29th Street. The semi driver was not injured. From Alliance, the Nebraska Brand Committee will need a new director. Committee Chairman John Widdowson announced on Wednesday that Executive Director Bill Bunce will leave at the end of the month. Bunce said he has accepted a position as Vice President of the Houston-based American Brahmin Breeders Association. It's an opportunity I need to pursue, and it's the best thing for my family, Bunce said. Bunce had been hired after the previous director, Sean Harvey, resigned in the wake of a critical state audit. In Grand Island, Robin Nels turned herself in to Grand Island Police on Thursday in connection with a fatal hit and run this week. She was arrested and charged with leaving the scene of an injury accident resulting in death, which is a felony. Justin Foster, 28, was struck and killed in the Monday morning incident. From Lincoln, a California man has been sentenced to prison in Nebraska for scamming a car restoration shop out of thousands of dollars. Court records say 60-year-old Steve Shull of Anaheim, California, was given 2 years at his sentencing Wednesday in Lincoln. He was credited with 254 days already served. He has pleaded no contest to a felony theft charge after prosecutors lowered it. In Kearney, a November trial has been scheduled for a Kearney daycare owner who had been caring for 4 children who police say were found walking unsupervised along a busy street a mile away. Court records say 41-year-old Meredith Spencer filed written pleas of not guilty Wednesday to 4 counts of misdemeanor, child abuse, and neglect. Her trial is set to begin November 6. Prosecutors say someone called police July 13 after spotting the children, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and 2 5-year-olds. Police say the kids were unharmed.
From Council Bluffs, a man charged with killing a sheriff's deputy and wounding another while escaping from an Iowa jail will plead guilty, prosecutors said Wednesday. The Pottawatomie County Attorney's Office said an attorney for Wesley Correa Carminati, 24, informed officials of the change. No plea bargain was made in the case, and Correa Carminati still faces charges of murder, attempted murder, escape, kidnapping, and other crimes, the office said in a news release. Correa Carminati's trial was due to start Tuesday in Council Bluffs, but instead there will be a change of plea hearing that day. He had just been sentenced on May 1 to 45 years in prison in an unrelated murder case and was being taken from the courthouse to the Pottawatomie County Jail when the fatal assault occurred, officials said. Authorities said Correa Carminati was in handcuffs and leg shackles as he was being transported in a jail van, but managed to unlock them by the time the van reached the jail. A struggle ensued, and Correa Carminati managed to grab a gun of one of the deputies, officials said, shooting Deputy Mark Burbridge in the head and Deputy Pat Moran in the abdomen before taking both deputies' guns, ammunition, and the keys to the van. Burbridge died and Morgan survived. Correa Carminati then drove the transport van through a jail garage door, abandoning it a few blocks away, authorities said. Authorities say he was trying to carjack a truck, shooting and wounding a man inside it, then carjacked a woman and drove across the border into Omaha, where he let the woman go. He was arrested there a short time later after crashing during a high-speed chase with police.
The 20 backpacks were lined up in the front room of the Ronald McDonald House, one for each child living in the house, while receiving long-term medical care at local hospitals. Matt Bauman, dressed in his green Omaha Police Department's pilot's uniform, stood among the backpacks and the children eager to get their hands on them. Bauman, joined by other members of the Omaha Police Union, passed out the backpacks, asking kids if they preferred Elsa from Frozen or Minnie Mouse, Batman, or the Avengers. The police union gave out backpacks to the 20 children staying at the Ronald McDonald House on Thursday afternoon. Each backpack was filled with back-to-school items like crayons and notebooks, along with a few toys. The house is a place for children and their families to stay as they go through treatment. For most, getting treatment away from home means they aren't returning to school right away, but getting a new backpack is a chance to feel like other kids, program director Vicki Coleman said. I love seeing the smiles on the kids' faces and how excited they get, Coleman said. It brings tears to my eyes. They're so innocent and appreciative. As the afternoon's rain let up, kids and their parents were able to go outside and be patrol horses and sit atop police motorcycles, Bauman said. He hopes the police union was able to bring a little joy and distraction to the families living in the house. Mason Plock, 5, dug into his Minion backpack, opening a toy helicopter. Mason and his mother, Kate Plock, have been in the house for a little less than 2 years, she said. Mason has autism and has received treatment for his severe feeding disorder and food allergies. They'll be going home to Pawnee City soon, and Mason will be able to put his new backpack to use when he starts school. Mason's mother said she appreciated the police officer's efforts. You're in a depressing, stressed out situation when you're here, Plock said. Little breaks like this, it lightens your mood.
And we've got a recycling contract story. The Lincoln City Council will consider a slimmed down one-year contract for recycling education rather than the 3-year contract discussed at a recent meeting. Carson and Company Global offered to have a one-year $512,757 contract, which will cover the marketing necessary for the beginning of the city's ban on corrugated cardboard in the landfill. Funding for that first year includes a $225,000 state grant. Carson and Company Global CEO Jamie Carson offered the one-year contract idea after the council delayed a decision on a 3-year contract because council members and the public had questions about the cost and about the contract and the $850,000 cost. Carson said she and her staff are eager to begin the work necessary to help with the ban on corrugated cardboard, which begins in April. The company had hoped to start work on that campaign in July, she said in a recent interview. In a memo to council members, Donna Garden, Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities, said the Carson and Company Global bid offered the most comprehensive program at the lowest cost among the 4 bids the city received and was the unanimous choice of the selection committee. It was the lowest cost. It scored the highest in the interview, again unanimously, she wrote. It was also the most qualified with clearly demonstrated knowledge of our solid waste system here in Lincoln. After the July 31 public hearing, the council delayed a decision on the contract until its August 14 meeting. The first year is the most expensive of the proposed 3-year contract, intended to encourage more businesses to set up recycling programs and encourage homeowners and renters to use curbside services. The new contract would have an option to renew for an additional year. Some of the public and council members asked about using incentives as part of the educational program. 2 of the bidding companies used an incentive program. Research shows that once incentives are removed, progress reverses, Garden said. Once rewards go away, people go back to their normal behavior. Working through the barriers that stand in the way of recycling works better for long-term change, Carson said. One of the biggest values of this approach is it is lasting.
To the obituaries and funeral arrangements in our local papers. And we'll start out with a brief article on Jim Ellsbury, 77. He was very well known in the area for his music education. Jim Ellsbury conducted 70 voices in glorious harmony, elevated the musical skills of college students, and enjoyed coming up with witty puns. Ellsbury, the former director of the Master Singers Chorale in Omaha and retired director of choral music and jazz studies at the former Midland Lutheran College, died Monday at 77. He was one of the most important and gifted conductors I've ever seen work, said Eric Richards, a former colleague in Fremont at what's now called Midland University, and he was an outstanding teacher. A member of the Nebraska Music Educators Association Hall of Fame, Ellsbury is survived by sons Austin and Jordan. A memorial service will be held at 2 p.m. Wednesday at the Dugan Funeral Chapel in Fremont. And in other obituaries, Bodmer, Shirley Ida Bodmer, age 92, maiden name Wyckoff Finfrock. She is formerly of Omaha, Nebraska, passed away in Tucson, Arizona. There is nothing listed as far as a funeral home or funeral arrangements. Built, Mary Ann Built, age 88, of Omaha. Funeral mass 10 a.m. Saturday, August 12 at St. Barnard's Catholic Church, and memorials to House of Hope, Dementia Memory Care. Raider Mortuary on 108th Street is taking care of the arrangements. Burden, Clarissa burden. There will be no services. Good Shepherd Funeral Home on South 24th Street is taking care of the arrangements. She was looks like 62 years old. Dickhout, Virginia M. Dickhout, age 88, maiden name Marjorick. Services are pending. West Lawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is taking care of the arrangements. Dvork, Lila Lee Dvork, maiden name Grossman. Memorial Luncheon Potluck will be held Saturday, August 12 from 12 to 5 p.m. at the Eagles 38 on South 24th Street. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to the family. There is nothing in as far as a funeral home listed. Estill, Robert E. Estill, age 84, a veteran. Nassau Christian Burial today at 10 o'clock. A little late for that one. American Legion is doing the military honors. Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements. Foray, Susan D. Foray, age 75. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to National Alliance for Mental Health. John A. Gentleman on 72nd Street is handling the arrangement. Gilsdorf, Shirley C. Gilsdorf, age 80. Memorial service Saturday at 2 p.m. at Church of the Holy Spirit. Memorials to Church of the Holy Spirit. Bellevue Memorial Chapel is what's listed, 2202 Hancock Street in Bellevue is handling the arrangements. Halsey, Jill K. Halsey, age 51. Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the Nebraska Humane Society. Ham, Eugene Genio Ham, age 80. There will be a funeral service at 7 p.m. at the mortuary, which is Kaler Dolch Mortuary in Papillion. There will also be a complete notice later. Jurgensen, Lucy E. Jurgensen, age 88 of Omaha. Funeral service Saturday at the funeral home in Utan, which is Reichmuth Funeral Home in Utan. The family requests casual dress. In lieu of flowers, memorials can be made to the charity of your choice. Kuhlman, Kenneth W. Kuhlman, age 82. The arrangements are pending. Bethany Funeral Home is taking care of that. McFerrin, Edwin E. Sonny McFerrin, Jr., age 85 of Modale, Iowa. Funeral service August 14 at the Hennessy Funeral Home in Missouri Valley, Iowa. Miller, James C. Miller, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Air Force, retired, age 75. John A. Gentleman Mortuary is handling the arrangements. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association. Polt, Jeanette P. Polt, age 77. Mass of Christian Burial, Saturday, August 19, 10 a.m. at Christ the King Catholic Church. Memorials are suggested to Christ the King Catholic Church or Endless Journey Hospice Care, Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel. Poppert, Eloise I. Poppert, age 95. Services Saturday, August 12 at 10 a.m. at the Bel Air Chapel of Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler, and memorials to Josie Harper Hospice House. Saddlemeyer, Roseanne Saddlemeyer, age 57. There will be a complete notice later. Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler, Bel Air Chapel. Sanderson, Sam Douglas Grant Sanderson, age 63. Funeral is August 12 at the St. Stephen of the Martyr Catholic Church. Memorial donations can be made to St. Stephen the Martyr Catholic Church. Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements. Shellhart, Eileen A. Shellhart, age 67. There will be a complete notice later. Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel. Schmitz, Ronald C. Schmitz, age 84. He was a corporal in the medical company of 134th Infantry Regiment in the National Guard of Nebraska and the National Guard of the United States. He was also an airman in the United States Air Force Reserve. Memorial Mass Saturday at St. Philip Neri Catholic Church on North 30th Street. Memorials to the Open Door Mission, Hefe Hoffman Dvork Cutler Bel Air Chapel. Shepherd, Deborah Sue Shepard, age 54. Kaylor Dolch Mortuary is handling the arrangements. Memorials to Papillion La Vista School Foundation for teacher appreciation. Stessman, Ronald N. Stessman, age 74. There will be a funeral on August 14 at St. Gerald Catholic Church on Q Street. There will be a complete notice later. Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler Bel Air Chapel is handling the arrangements. Stillmock, Thomas J. Stillmock, age 80. Burial is Monday, August 14 at Holy Ghost Catholic Church. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association, Heafy Hoffman DeVore Cutler Bel Air Chapel. Wisman, Ray J. Wisman, age 96. Services are pending. Crosby, Burkett, Swanson, Golden Colonial Chapel is handling the arrangements. Williams, Martha Jean Williams, age 71 of Omaha. Services Monday, 1 p.m. at the mortuary. That's Raider Mortuary, Ames Chapel. Memorials to the charity of Donor's Choice in memory of Martha. Winter, Mary Jo Winter, age 94. Memorial service August 12th, Saturday at St. Augustine's Episcopal Church in Elkhorn. Memorials to either the church or Josie Harper Hospice House. Reichmuth Funeral Home is handling the arrangement. And my final listing is Zimmerman, Phyllis E. Zimmerman, age 59. Memorial service Saturday at Pacific Hills Lutheran Church, 11 a.m. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the Pacific Hills Lutheran Church or Nebraska Methodist College for Nursing Scholarship. Raider Mortuary, 108th Street Chapel.
And these are obituaries from the Lincoln Journal-Star for Friday, August 11. A Frank, Marilyn A. Frank, she was 80 and lived in St. Edward. The Lavender Funeral Home of Cedar Rapids is handling services. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be given to the St. Edward Volunteer Fire and Rescue Service. Binder, Norma Binder, was 96 when she died in Table Rock on August 6. Blair, Kimberly D. Blair, was 42 years of age when she died on August 9 in Du Bois. Cheney, Helen M. Cheney, was 77 years of age and died on August 4. Memorials to Our Savior's Lutheran Church, the Bellevue Memorial Funeral Chapel in Bellevue. Chapel, or Chappelle perhaps, Sharon K. Chappelle, died on August 8 in Fairbury at the age of 78. The Gertis Meyer Funeral Home in Fairbury is handling arrangements. Dugan, Laura Jean Dugan, was 59 when she died on August 6. The Butheris, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home is handling services. Memorials in lieu of flowers to Villa Marie Home and School for Exceptional Children in Waverly, Nebraska. Camas or Camus, James E. Camus, was 91 when he died on August 8 in Lincoln. Butheris, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home. Kopersky, Theodore R. Ted Kopersky, was 73 years of age when he died on August 8. Memorials are suggested to Catholic Social Services or the Matt Talbot Kitchen or Outreach or St. Mary's School Guardian Angel Fund, the Butheris, Mazer, and Love Funeral Home. Mayor Candace K. Mayer was 37 and where she died in Columbus on August 6. Memorials to the family for future designation, the Roper and Sons Funeral Home in Lincoln. Miller, Patricia Ann Miller, was 92 when she died in Lincoln on August 9. Memorials to the Alzheimer's Association Great Plains chapter, the Roper and Sons Funeral Home. Rader, Loma J. Rader, was 89 and lived in Sprague. The Kunkel Funeral Home in Crete is handling arrangements. Rootmanis, Ojars or Joe Rootmanis, was 78 when he died in Lincoln on August 8. the Roper and Sons Funeral Home. Shimerda, Rosalie Jane Shimerda, was 74. She died on August 6 in Lincoln. Memorials may be sent to the Rosa Shimerda Grandchildren's Trust in Lincoln, Nebraska. Flowers may be brought to her celebration of life at Sacred Winds Native Mission United Methodist Church in Lincoln. No funeral home is mentioned.
Listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as donor's choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska 68152. And thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter. And Ralph and I will be right back after a short break with editorials, today's living entertainment, business and markets, and sports.
And thank you very much, Bob Goddard and Ralph Morocco, for reading the first hour of today's Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star. We will be back to our stars after we take a little break. And now what we'd like to do is to present the
Never in my
home
life
delivery meal
like
menus for this
65
Friday.
years.
Here
I,
with the home
never
delivery
think I'd
menus
see
is
anything as
Ann
crazy
Pelican.
as this stuff going on right now. And I just like going thinking of my kids going, oh man, what do they got to look forward to?
Tuna, egg noodle,
It's just
egg
insanity.
Yeah, I know.
beans, tossed salad with
David
dressing,
Brooks had an interesting column the other day,
dinner roll with
saying, things are
margarine.
really crazy and
cinnamon applesauce,
what will come next.
and a pint of
And
1% milk.
it's not like we're going to snap
And thank you
back
very
to
much, Ann Pelican, for
You know,
the
Obama
senior
era.
home delivery
No.
menus for
reality
today.
show.
And this is Paul Stebbins with just a couple of quick announcements.
I don't
First
know.
of all, the program
It's
Eyes on Success was
really
not
nuts.
aired last week because
Yes.
there was not a new show up there on the
And
web.
you get,
It is there now, and John Fullerton
I
cannot be
told
with us
you know,
for
I said,
last week and
for the
again
longest
this week
time, I just thought
for
the
Wall
Trump
Street
supporters
Journal.
were reading it.
So
Now I
we are
just think
taking
they're
a special
stupid.
1-hour program
I
from
just-
the Talking Information
And I know
Center
some very, very
in
intelligent
Massachusetts,
people
and
who are
that will
Trump
run
supporters.
from about 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. today only.
Yeah,
And
it's
so we're
there's
going to move Eyes on
there's something
Success
wrong there.
just for this week back
Anybody
to
who
3:30
can
p.m. and it will replace Health and Wellness
sing his
for
praises
today.
after
So you will hear
the last
Eyes on
6
Success.
months. It's just
This is a new
not
program
paying attention.
about blind
Well,
people
he's obviously
bound for
some
college.
college guy.
Sounds
Just
interesting.
wackadoo.
And
Yeah.
that will be played from 3:30 to 4, and then we will
I
have
saw
a
a
special
political
hour-long
cartoon
edition of
that was
the Wall
one of the-
Street Journal reading for today.
I'm trying to remember the
And the
exact
other
thing
thing
about it,
is
but it was
that the
talking about
movie for this week
generally, it says
for
generally
Saturday Night
diplomatic
Movies
discussions over these
is
things
the
generally
Buddy Holly
work the
story.
best.
So
But in
it
this
is a
case, I'm
musical,
not
it
so
is
sure
really
that
good.
shows a room with
And
two
we
high
invite
chairs.
you all to tune in tomorrow
Yeah.
night at 6:30 p.m. for the
Throwing
Buddy
food
Holly
in.
story.
Food fight
You
would
are,
be a
of
better
course,
solution.
listening
Yeah.
to the Radio Talking Book Network in Nebraska.
Yeah, you got
We're
two.
proudly serving our blind
That's
and
nice that
visually
they,
impaired listeners now for over
Should have
42
done like they did
years.
in the Old Testament with David and Goliath with the
Radio
Philistines and the
Talking Book
Jews. You know,
Network
they
is
just
brought
put two
to you
guys
with
down
the
there and said, whoever
cooperation
won,
of KIOS
put those two in a
FM
room.
Omaha and statewide through
Although I
the
think
facilities of
Trump would probably
NBT,
get his butt
radio,
kicked.
and
Yeah,
television.
me too.
Now, let's return to our readers for the second hour of reading from today's newspapers. Here once again, Ralph Morocco and Bob Godding.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome back, listeners. We'll start the second half of our programming with the opinions and editorials and an article in the Omaha World Herald entitled UNL Construction Programming, Sound Vision for Ag Science. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln is lifting its agricultural environmental studies program to a higher level by making targeted investments in buildings and research initiatives. This coordinated effort is guided by a strong strategic plan that promotes interdisciplinary collaborations crucial to 21st century scientific research. UNL's agricultural and natural resource programs are on an impressive upswing, accounting for 48.5% of the campus's $295 million in research expenditures. Undergraduate enrollment in UNL's agricultural and natural resources programs during 2006 to 16 increased by 78%. That's a greater increase than for any other undergraduate major at the Lincoln campus. As the number of students majoring in ag-related science or management programs has increased, UNL has taken significant steps to boost East Campus resources. Key examples are the new Massengale Residential Center, replacing decades-old student housing, and East Campus Recreation and Wellness Center. The newly built Veterinarian Diagnostic Center, replacing a facility built in 1975, will strengthen the center's ability to deliver services and enhance student instruction. The center tests blood, fecal matter, and whole animals for disease, working with clients including private industry, zoos, and the state and federal agricultural departments. A partnership with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, for example, works to prevent the disease of wildlife diseases such as rabies and chronic wasting disease. The Ag Studies Strategic Plan also involves sites besides East Campus. The Department of Food Science and Technology, for example, has relocated to the nearby Innovation Campus Complex with strengthened capabilities for research, student instruction, and collaborations with private industry. Another important UNL site is the Beetle Center on the east side of the city's campus. Facilities there involve some of UNL's most sophisticated ag-related scientific work, including genetic research and biological data analysis, fields of study receiving particular emphasis and support from the strategic plan. Interdisciplinary collaboration on high-level research is now a central priority in UNL Ag Studies. One of the largest projects in that vein involves a $20 million 5-year grant from the National Science Foundation. The funds will support the study of root and soil microbes with the aim of improving productivity and enhancing capabilities such as drought resistance. The project will involve 14 UNL faculty members from agronomy, biochemistry, biological sciences, chemistry, and plant pathology. Other participants are 2 faculty members at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, 2 at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and 2 at Doane University. UNL has launched an initiative, Infuse, Innovations at the Nexus of Food, Energy, and Water Systems, to promote wide-ranging cross-disciplinary research discussions among its facility and faculty. The dialogue also draws on the expertise of the NU-wide Water for Food Institute and Rural Futures Institute. UNL is making sound investments in facilities and programs with major long-term benefits for students and the state.
And letters to the editor in the Lincoln Journal-Star are Keystone XL pipeline related. Alexander Munson of Lincoln writes, despite the executive order to revive TransCanada's Keystone XL pipeline, Nebraskans make the final decision, and many feel hope in putting our trust at home. The Nebraska Public Service Commission gave opportunity for hundreds to testify for or against Keystone XL during a series of hearings throughout our state. Having faith that our concerns would be considered in such a democratic manner felt as though we were participating in the government that we have been led to believe in, one that listens to its people. All information provided overwhelmingly indicates that KXL is poison locally and globally. And at every one of these hearings, the overwhelming majority of Nebraskans in attendance disfavor KXL, reflecting the growing awareness of climate and economic concerns. Even TransCanada questions if KXL is worth completing. It has already met so much criticism. The oil market continues to falter in the face of renewable energies, and it's losing investors. But this is not only a matter of stopping KXL. This is a question of where we can place our trust. We again thank the Public Service Commission, but please don't let all of our hours of testimony and travel be in vain. Nebraska doesn't want or need KXL. But more importantly, we hope that the PSC has listened to why. We're afraid of the future as things are now, and we're ready to do something about it. We're ready to take charge. Nebraskans and our allies will stop KXL no matter what, peacefully. Many are looking for a reason to gather, but we'd rather it be in celebration of democracy done right, not because of fear. We're ready for heroes to help put an end to this fear, and the PSC has the chance to deliver. Dan Goebel of Fairbury writes, There is a simple solution for the Keystone XL pipeline that would keep almost everyone happy. Any effects of a pipeline failure would be minor. Water contamination would largely be avoided. Union members would have jobs in some counties, and landowners would have a little more money. And it would clear most legal objections, except maybe that big one of eminent domain for a private corporation for private gain. All that needs to be done is to route it north and east of the Ogallala Aquifer, and everybody should be reasonably happy, except, of course, TransCanada. But we're not here to keep them happy. Besides, they didn't care what we thought anyway.
From the Omaha Public Pulse, Bill Salazar of Omaha writes, kudos to Will Barney and the successful push by North Omaha to reclaim its rightful place as an enterprising locale for small business and educational enterprises that we should all support and be thankful for. I've always been a staunch supporter of equality of opportunity for all Americans, especially those communities that have too often been ignored or left behind due to racism and discrimination. However, echoing some of my peers and colleagues in South Omaha, I would strongly urge the powers that be in city government to consider carefully the allocation of funding so that it does not become lopsided in favor of one group to the exclusion of others, namely Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans. Let's be more considerate and understanding that there are other minority groups in need in Omaha. The economic growth of South Omaha has been achieved largely on the vigorous nature of our immigrant brothers and sisters from Mexico and Latin America. However, there are still many often hidden needs in the South Side. Fair is fair. Governmental leaders need to take this notion of economic assistance and growth to a new level of inclusion and equality for all groups. Mary Ruth Stegman of Omaha writes, Nebraska U.S. Senator Deb Fischer's comment that North Korea is a threat that is becoming real shows that she doesn't understand the issue. North Korea has been a threat since the Korean Armistice Agreement in 1953. What heightens the danger is that the world now has two unprepared leaders who are woefully unaware of the danger of nuclear war, yet act as though they are involved in some sort of a video game aimed at annihilation of the enemy while they remain an unaffected spectator. There will be no winners, only losers, if Trump and Kim Jong-un act out their destructive fantasies with a nuclear war. John Brando of Papillion writes, August 8 Public Pulse writer W. Ryan Wishart, Social Security not in dire straits, is concerned that oligarchs will convince Congress to let the vampires running our financial system plunder Social Security. Too late. Congress beat them to it. And finally, Jim Boucher of Valley writes, August 6 Public Pulse writer Scott Bray contends that the tragic human trafficking deaths in Texas occurred because of lax enforcement of our liberal immigration laws. On the contrary, it happened because of harsh but one-sided enforcement. We Americans like cheap and plentiful food. Back in the 1950s, when the United Packing House Workers of America went on strike in Omaha, some of our managers drove stock trucks and loaded up Mexican men ready to work until the strike was broken. So did food growers who needed cheap labor. Now the government is cracking down. This means that anyone here without proper papers has no government to protect them from harm. They can't complain about anything lest they be arrested and deported. Bray wrote, who wouldn't come for free food, housing, healthcare, and education? This is a derogatory way to describe our America as a beacon of liberty, our shining city on a hill. In his letter, he exposed these nativist policies for what they really are when he compared immigrants to stray cats partaking of the milk we leave on our patio. Stop providing the milk, he wrote, and the stray cat will quit coming around. We should continue to have civil discussions about fixing immigration policies, but first, some of us need to recognize that human beings migrating to a great country to seek a better life are not equivalent to stray cats.
And this is E.J. Dionne's column appearing in the Lincoln Journal-Star. If ever there were a foreign policy issue around which our nation should be united, it's the nuclear threat from North Korea. Many regimes deserve to be called criminal, but few more so than Kim Jong-un's. Human Rights Watch calls North Korea one of the most repressive authoritarian states in the world. It seeks fearful obedience by using public executions, arbitrary detention, and forced labor. The group points to a United Nations report documenting systemic, widespread, and gross human rights violations that include murder, enslavement, torture, imprisonment, rape, forced abortion, and other sexual violence. North Korea's actions constituted crimes against humanity. They entail effectively enslaving hundreds of thousands of citizens, including children, in prison camps and other detention facilities, and involve beatings and torture by guards and forced labor in dangerous and sometimes deadly conditions. There is a savage madness to this government, and the prospect of its utterly unstable leader getting his hands on usable nuclear weapons is terrifying. There is also a kind of tragic consensus among students of international relations that the United States lacks any obvious good options. Of course, the U.S. has the military power to take on a small and economically miserable country, but the costs of such action could be enormous. They would likely fall first on South Korea, a loyal and prosperous U.S. ally. Seoul, its bustling capital, is home to some 10 million people and lies just 35 miles from the demilitarized zone that separates the two Koreas. Confronting these horrifying realities, the vast majority of Americans, I suspect, would prefer to suspend our acrid politics in dealing with this issue and support President Trump if he pursued a tough but serious and carefully orchestrated policy. Trump may be given to hyperbolic and often fact-free attacks on those he perceives as enemies, but it's hard to be hyperbolic where Kim is concerned. And this is where Trump's temperamental unfitness for the office he occupies is disturbing for reasons that go beyond party or ideology. There was nothing useful about his telling reporters at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey on Tuesday, North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. Senator John McCain is nobody's idea of a dove, but he knew bombast when he saw it. I take exception to the president's comments because you got to be sure you can do what you say you're going to do, McCain told a Phoenix radio station. The great leaders that I've seen, they don't threaten unless they're ready to act. And I'm not sure President Trump is ready to act. The implication of Trump's statement was that he'd abandoned decades of presidential restraint and be willing to use nuclear weapons. He ratcheted his threat upward on Wednesday and confused matters at the same time with a pair of conjoined tweets that read, "My first order as president was to renovate and modernize our nuclear arsenal. It is now far stronger and more powerful than ever before. Hopefully, we will never have to use this power, but there will never be a time that we are not the most powerful nation in the world." Here, alas, is Trump in a nutshell. It's all about him, as if he has radically changed our nuclear posture in just over 6 months in office. And base-pleasing swagger will always be number one. But nobody doubts our country's military power. It's wisdom the world is looking for. In the meantime, our nation's diplomats scrambled to control the damage. Thus did Secretary of State Rex Tillerson explain to reporters on Wednesday, "What the president is doing is sending a strong message to North Korea in language that Kim Jong-un would understand, because he doesn't seem to understand diplomatic language." But do we really want an American president stooping to Kim's rhetorical level? Perhaps following Richard Nixon's madman theory of foreign relations, Trump hopes to use the menace of irrational action to scare Kim into backing down and to scare China into pushing him to do so. But it's a high-risk game. At any moment when Americans would prefer, or at a moment when Americans would prefer to stand together and support Trump in the face of this grave peril, the president has once again done all he could to divide us. and to remind his critics why they find his approach so appalling.
We'll turn now to the lighter side of our papers with the living and entertainment sections. And this is an article from Anna Lind Thomas. She is a contributor to the mamaha.com blog site. I was flipping through photos on my phone when I came across something so frightening, so disturbing, I had an ever so slight identity crisis. My toddler, who is not allowed to get her yogurt-covered fingers on my iPhone, had gotten a hold of it anyway and made her way to the camera. Along a myriad of pictures of the ceiling, the couch, her feet, and the top of her forehead, I saw the one picture that had me slipping into the abyss. A picture of me, but not just any picture of me. I was sitting on the couch talking with my husband. My legs were crossed casually, and I looked uncharacteristically, how shall I say it? Curvish? Okay, fat, all right? I looked really, really fat. My breasts were sagging below my belly button. Note, get a new bra ASAP, and my thighs looked like a giant oak tree stump. My hair was frizzy, toppled into a mess, but not in a cute way, bun. And the cellulite, oh, the cellulite. It was like my thighs were covered in pebbles, but not the kind of pebbles beneath a quiet babbling brook. No, pebbles filled with fat and shame and poor decisions made at the Cheesecake Factory. To make matters worse, I thought I was looking really good that day. So to witness a picture revealing otherwise was a real swift kick to the jewels. And I said all of this to my husband as I looked upon the picture I had discovered. And my husband, holding our infant Poppy, looked at me calmly and said gently, "Please don't ever talk that way about yourself in front of the girls again." Gulp. I looked over at my toddler, Lucy, and she flashed me a tentative smile, the kind that says, "I sense tension. Everything all right?" I wrapped my arms around her and kissed her forehead. They're always watching. They're always listening. They're learning about life and how to respond to it through me. What have I been teaching this whole time? My husband was right. I don't think that very often, so I knew I was in trouble. When I was little, I thought my mom was the most beautiful woman in the world. Her olive Sicilian skin, her fingers as they soothed me with her pretty long fingernails. She represented comfort and love, grace and style. I knew, whether our culture agreed or not, that my girls would grow up thinking the same about me. Well, maybe not about my fingernails. Those are a mess. But I would be beautiful because I would represent comfort, love, laughter, and I don't know, big hair. But it would be beautiful to them because their innocence, not yet jaded by cultural lies, would see me through a lens of pure love, which really is the ultimate truth. If their mother, who they think is beautiful, dresses herself down with insults and disgust, I imagine they'll wonder, if my mama thinks she's fat and ugly, then what does that say about me? This breaks my heart. This cannot happen, not on my watch, and not because of my loud mouth. They will not fill their heart or entertain lies about how they look, and if they do it, it won't be because they learned it from me. It's not politically correct anymore to hate how we look. We changed the language, but deep down in private, many of us are still loathing ourselves just the same. And as much as I hate this, I can do something about it. My girls will watch me eat healthfully and exercise my body because I want to live a long, full life on this earth. They'll watch me eat a piece of cake at a birthday party, not with a nervous, loathing energy, but one filled with joy, savoring each bite. They'll see me eat for the right reasons because I'm hungry and my body needs it. And thankfully, I enjoy good, wholesome food, not because I'm stressed, emotional, or bored. They'll hear me laugh at a terrible picture of myself, not unleash a torrent of insults. Will I be perfect about this? Nope. I'm human and I enjoy eating a truckload of buttered popcorn at the movies like the next person. But I do know this. I won't talk about myself like that in front of my girls again. And they better not do the same in front of me as they grow older. Or I'll do something drastic like force them to read this column. Then, when we're good and hungry and feeling a bit better about things, we'll share a yummy piece of cake. Then we'll go for a walk. And I'll try to hold hands and they'll shoo me off because they're 14 and that's weird. Life really is too short for self-loathing and inadequate amounts of cake.
And this is the Ask Amy column from the Journal Star. Dear Amy, I need advice. I've been married for 2 years. My husband is much younger than I, but I love him very much. I asked him one day if he has cheated on me since we have been married. He always used to say no. This time he said yes, and that he was sorry. I have forgiven him. It's very hard. I want to know some details. Should I ask or should I let it be and try to go on? He has answered some of my questions, but some he ignores or changes the subject. What should I do? Signed, Sad Spouse. Dear spouse, admission and forgiveness is a start, but there is no quick fix to rebuilding your relationship after infidelity, because healing from infidelity is all about restoring trust, and this takes time. Your husband should be completely transparent at this point and tell you everything you want to know. Why? Because he loves you and you are asking. Many survivors of infidelity don't want to know details of their partner's unfaithfulness, but some people do need to know. Wondering and ruminating can make things worse for you, delaying your recovery from this extreme marital challenge. The best place for you two to start this journey is in the office of a compassionate marriage counselor who can help to guide this important conversation and others that will follow. You and your husband should both read Healing from Infidelity, the divorce-busting guide to rebuilding your marriage after an affair by therapist Michelle Warner Davis. Your young marriage can survive this, but you need to forge a different path forward. Dear Amy, I'm a 20-year-old college student who just began dating a great guy. He's really funny and I feel comfortable with him. I am his first relationship in 5 years, but things seem to be going well. However, he is 7 years older than me. He just graduated from the same college I am attending and is still living at home, while I'm in an apartment about 2 hours from my hometown. The thing that keeps popping into my head is, if the relationship continues long term, how will the age difference affect us? I also worry about my parents, what my parents would think about the difference in our age and of him if and when they meet him. Is this a bridge to cross when I get to it? What issues should I prepare for? Signed, Dating Numbers Game. Dear Dating, you should take your relationship in gradual and realistic stages. The way you describe your boyfriend, his own development, may make him closer in age to you, maturity-wise, and because of that, the age difference may not present too many challenges. Generally, relationships between people far apart in age tend to be challenged, mainly when both partners are at different life stages. This issue will wax and wane over time. Importantly, at 20, your primary job is to continue your own process of growing up. If it interferes with your own personal or educational goals, then it is not a healthy one for you. It is natural for you to worry about your parents' reaction to this relationship, but always remember that this is your relationship, not theirs. And if it is solid and functional, and if your guy is respectful and kind, then your folks should embrace your relationship and him. Dear Amy, thank you so much for suggesting cohabitating with a friend to Bernd who didn't want to grow old alone. My cheating husband ended our relationship when I was 33. For about 10 years, I didn't mind being alone, but after that, it began to wear on me. I was an only child with just my mother still alive. I knew that eventually I'd be completely alone. I didn't have a playmate to travel with, go to dinner with, etc. I wasn't looking for sex. I wanted a good pal. When I was about 45, I met another woman who was in the same spot I was in. Long story short, we combined our fates, and we've been happy together for 22 years. We're not gay, although most people think we are. We're committed platonic partners. We aren't facing our later years alone. This isn't for everyone, but like Mick Jagger said, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. And we did. Signed, Lexi. This is an ideal model for many people. I'm happy for you both.
Some members of Eagles Nest Worship Center soon will spend a few days shuttling kids around town. You might ask how that's different from other weekends for busy families, but it is. They will be hosts and chauffeurs for about 20 performers of the African Children's Choir, a group of kids ages 8 to 10 that's stopping in Omaha at the halfway point in an 8-month North American tour. The choir will present a program of song, dance, and drumming during Sunday services at the church at 5775 Sorensen Parkway. The tour has a special purpose. It raises funds to educate desperately impoverished African youngsters, said Tina Sipp, the choir's manager. Missionary Ray Barnett founded the organization in 1984 after a trip to Uganda, where President Idi Amin had presided over a corrupt regime and a civil war was raging. Barnett was asked to give a ride to a little boy who had lost both his parents, Sipp said. The boy sang praise songs the whole way. He was so resilient and hopeful. The experience gave Barnett an appreciation for the beauty, dignity, and potential of children in extremely difficult situations. The kids he met were so poor that they had no access to schools because even government-supported education required parents to pay for uniforms and supplies. That hasn't changed, Sipp said. Members of the current choir are from homes in which families are just trying to get one meal a day, she